Dear listeners, welcome to the Deep Journal channel. By subscribing to our channel, you can be informed about detailed reports every time. The tension between the USA and Russia is at full speed. Russia opened fire with different weapons against the US missile destroyers in the Black Sea. At the same time, Russia tried to shoot down the American F-35 by attacking it with special weapons. While these developments fell like a bomb on the agenda, many NATO allies are entering the region to support Ukraine. Russia recently deployed 17 Su-34 fighter jets to the Ukrainian border, after shipping more than 100,000 troops and deploying thousands of tanks to the border. It is clear that warplanes deployed 34 kilometers from Ukraine are a very serious threat. It is thought that Ukraine does not have the strength to respond to the attacks of Su-34 fighters. In line with this thought, Russia, in a statement made by the official news agency affiliated with the Ministry of Defense of Russia, reported that Russian electronic warfare systems completely collapsed the systems of F-35 warplanes. In the report, which is said to be against F-35 warplanes flying without the permission of Russia, especially in the Crimea section of the Black Sea region, it is reported that these aircraft pilots lost their entire communication network after the system crashed. Russia's attack on the American F-35 was also approved by China. Russia has been working on F-35 warplanes for a very long time and is looking for a way to shoot down these warplanes. It is claimed that Russian electronic warfare systems have a range of at least 500 kilometers and can easily lock down any American F-35 system and shoot down the plane. It is alleged that Italy gave up its decision to send F-35s to Ukraine for this reason. The United States, on the other hand, announced that it would send 6 warplanes to Ukraine in response to this move of Russia. In addition, many U.S. bombers are standing by in the region, and American nuclear missiles are deployed to Poland. Following this statement, the U.S. move was interpreted as a challenge in the news in the Russian media. In addition, Russia claims that the American warship John McCain has invaded Russian territorial waters, and in response, Russia is trying to put pressure on the Pentagon. A missile was launched by the Russian boat Shuya at the American destroyer Arleigh Burke, which continues its activities in the region. As a result of the attack, there was a great atmosphere of panic among the ship's crew. Even though the attack was purely intimidating, Russia said the attacks were intended to threaten and drive away U.S. missile destroyers in the Black Sea. It was also at the last minute that a Russian war helicopter attacked the U.S. missile destroyer USS Porter. In the news, which is stated that Russia's attack on destroyers is purely for self-defense, it is thought that Putin has a goal of creating a full exercise area in the Black Sea and realizing war scenarios. If Russia loses its dominance of the Black Sea, it may have to lose Crimea first and then put an end to its planned invasion of Ukraine. Because it is stated that most Ukrainian citizens in the Donbass region have a Russian identity card and those who do not have one are forced to do so. Canada, on the other hand, announced today that it is ready to strike warplanes and warships in Donbass. Canada, which has declared that it will fully support Ukraine against Russia, is closely interested in the incident in Eastern Europe. It seems likely that Canada, which is preparing to send a large military shipment to the region and send warplanes, will be involved in the tension in the region at any moment. Today, Russian electronic warfare systems brought down the systems of American F-35 fighters in Europe. Russian electronic warfare systems, Murmansk BN, located in the Murmansk region, Kaliningrad region and in the Crimea, brought down the onboard systems of American F-35 fighters. Most of the systems of American F-35 fighters simply fail, flying closer than 500 kilometers from the deployment sites of these electronic warfare systems. Moreover, it could precisely with this that the refusal to use such combat aircraft over the Black Sea and over the southern part of the Baltic Sea is connected. F-35 fighter pilots complain that they periodically lose communication, and some systems do not work at all when flying near the western Russian borders. In the summer of this year, a group of Italian F-35 fighters was deployed to Estonia. However, after a serious impact by Russian electronic warfare means, NATO countries refused to place their fifth-generation combat aircraft so close to the Russian borders. The Murmansk BN complexes have become Russia's key weapons. Russian systems, Murmansk BN, are advanced non-lethal weapons capable of hitting enemy electronic systems at distances over 3,000 kilometers. NATO previously complained about the work of Russian electronic warfare systems, noting that these weapons pose a threat to almost all of the alliance's weapons. Meanwhile, Russian missile boat unexpectedly opened fire during the passage of an American ship towards Ukraine. A Russian missile boat opened fire in the vicinity of a U.S. warship. The Russian missile boat, Shuya, made several missile launches from systems and complexes of various types, which seriously frightened the crew of the American destroyer, Arleigh Burke, since the launches were recorded by the onboard systems of the U.S. Navy ship. It is known that the incident occurred while an American missile destroyer was following towards the Ukrainian coast through one of the areas in which the Russian missile boat Shuya was located. Only anti-aircraft missiles and volleys were fired from the AK-176 artillery mount. Information about missile launches and firing from an artillery mount was also confirmed by representatives of the Black Sea Fleet of the Russian Navy. In the course of the combat training missions, the personnel at the maritime range performed a set of preparatory and then test firing at sea and air targets from the ship's artillery and missile weapons using the standard AK-176 gun mount and the Panzer M anti-aircraft missile and artillery complex, informs the command of the Black Sea Fleet of the Russian Navy. For what purpose the U.S. Navy ship entered the Black Sea is not specified. By the way, the American ship, John McCain, into Russian territorial waters forced the Pentagon to difficult situation. The situation at that time was more tense than it might seem at first glance. A Russian warship blocked the path of the American destroyer and demanded by radio communication to immediately leave the territorial waters of the Russian Federation. The situation has escalated to the limit. The U.S. made a public statement of accusations against Russia. They stated that the Russian military had no legal basis to conduct such maneuvers. The incident in the Peter the Great Gulf was so serious that Russia was ready to attack the American destroyer. A Russian combat helicopter has been practicing a strike on the USS Porter missile destroyer that has appeared in the Black Sea. Russia uncovered the cunning of the U.S. Navy and carried out an unusual simulated strike on the missile destroyer USS Porter. Russian experts claims Russia's harsh actions were caused primarily by the aggressive actions of Washington. At the same time, experts point to the fact that, taking into account what happened, the appearance of the American fleet in the Black Sea will not make any significant changes in the balance of power in the region. But in fact, Russian aggressive border deployment and invasion of Ukraine plans, forcing the US and NATO to tough precautions. In the meantime, Russia has deployed 17 Su-34 fighter bombers to the Ukrainian border last week. 150 Russian Su-17 fighters are stationed 34 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. 17 Su-34 fighter bombers of the 47th Bomber Aviation Regiment of the Leningrad Army of the Air Force and Air Defense of the Western Military District have already been relocated to the airfield, which is now capable of receiving all types of aircraft. According to the report, at the aforementioned airfield, located just 150 kilometers from the border with Ukraine, the runways, taxiways, as well as parking areas were modernized with the installation of the latest equipment, including weapons, radio reconnaissance and meteorological systems. The new concrete runway is about 4 kilometers long, 60 meters wide, has the highest performance and can accommodate all types of aircraft. In 2022, the fighter station will be equipped with a metal dome, the purpose of which is to increase technical security. In response to the Russia action, the United States decided to transfer 6 combat aircraft to Ukraine. The American Military Command decided to supply the Ukrainian Air Force with 6 Embraer EMB-314 Super Tucano attack aircraft. It is known that initially these combat aircraft were supposed to be transferred to the Afghan Air Force. However, after the seizure of power in the country by the Taliban, it was decided to sell the purchased aircraft to the Ukrainian Air Force. The amount of the transaction has not been disclosed. The United States will sell to Ukraine 6 Brazilian turboprop light attack aircraft Embraer EMB-314 Super Tucano, to suppress the Donbass, where the combat losses of the armed forces of Ukraine previously amounted to 11 aircraft and 7 helicopters. At the same time, light attack aircraft Embraer EMB-314 Super Tucano can be armed with a GM-65 Maverick guided missiles with a range of up to 22 kilometers and Turkish Roketsan Sirit missiles with a range of up to 8 kilometers, which poses enough threat to the positions of the militia in the Donbass. In addition, Canada announced its readiness to strike fighters and warships in the Donbass. At the moment, Canadian Defence Minister Anita Anand is considering the possibility of transferring several hundred servicemen, military equipment and weapons to Donbass. At the same time, the possibility of deploying Canadian CF-18 fighters at Ukrainian air bases is also being considered, which will have to strike at the Donbass or at the Russian military in the event of an invasion of the latter into the territory of Ukraine. The transfer of the Canadian military and weapons is supposed to be done under the guise of an alleged Russian threat, although Canada itself has repeatedly emphasized that Russia has the legal right to place its equipment anywhere on its territory. Defense Minister Anita Anand is considering deploying hundreds of additional troops to support Canadian soldiers already in Ukraine. Other options under consideration include the transfer of a warship to the Black Sea or the redeployment of some of the CF-18 fighters based in Romania. Any reinforcements would mean a message to Mr. Putin, who raised the alarm for the second time this year by concentrating troops and equipment near his country's borders with Ukraine. Videos posted on the internet show thousands of weapons, including tanks, armored personnel carriers and multiple launch rocket systems, moving towards Ukraine from their regular bases in other parts of Russia. By some estimates, just under 100 Russian soldiers are now just a short drive from Ukraine, a country that Mr. Putin has never considered a fully sovereign state and is determined to refrain from joining the US-led North Atlantic Treaty. At the moment, the decision has not yet been made. However, if Canadian fighters really start bombing Donbass, this will definitely force Russia to intervene in the situation.